Breaking news from South Sudan. A political earthquake is shaking the heart of the nation. A man once seen as one of President Salva Kiir's most loyal allies has broken his silence, and his words have sent shockwaves across the country. Nhial Deng Nhial, former foreign minister and senior SPLM figure, has declared that South Sudan is being run down. He says there's a total failure of governance, warning that nothing is working and violence has spread nationwide.
In fact, I would say that South Sudan is being run down. The problems are huge. There's basically total failure of governance. Nothing is working. There is very serious political instability that has actually manifested itself in violence all across the country. There is intracommunal violence, intercommunal violence, and of course political violence. The economy is in shambles. The South Sudanese currency basically is now worthless. Life is extremely hard for most South Sudanese these days. We believe that this situation is being perpetuated by the refusal of the regime, President Salva Kiir personally, to allow the transition to run its course. After the conclusion of the peace agreement in 2018, the provisions of those peace agreements have not been implemented. They are being implemented selectively, and that the implementation, of course, even is being violated. The agreement itself is being violated. The government is dragging its feet on the implementation, primarily because they do not want to see the transition run its full course, because if that were to happen, the transition would end in free and fair elections, and in all likelihood, the current regime would be voted out of office by the people.
This rare public criticism comes from a man who once stood beside the president through the country's toughest years. Now he's suspended his membership in the ruling SPLM and openly accused the government of corruption, insecurity, and stalling long-promised elections.
Yeah, I think the SPLM is potentially a very weighty political outfit, but it has been basically destroyed, has been completely dismantled by President Salva himself. First and foremost, he basically tossed aside the vision of the SPLM. So although the government of the Republic of South Sudan is an SPLM-run government, there are no policies that emanate from the SPLM to inform government programs and actions. So the SPLM is just like now an ornament. Secondly, he has emptied the SPLM of its cadres. I mean, the SPLM now, its leaders have been dismissed, they've been humiliated, and they've been replaced by people who even at one point in time were actually fighting the SPLM or hostile to the SPLM. So the SPLM basically does not exist any longer. And so there is no plan, there is no program, for running the country.
South Sudan, the world's youngest nation, won independence in 2011 after decades of struggle. But peace has been fragile. Just 2 years after independence, a bitter power struggle between President Salva Kiir and Riek Machar plunged the country into a devastating civil war, leaving more than 400,000 people dead. The 2018 peace deal brought hope and the promise of elections in 2022. But those elections never happened, and now renewed clashes between government and opposition forces have raised fears that the country may be sliding back toward full-scale war. The United Nations has voiced deep concern over the rising instability, warning that the peace process is on the brink. Nhial Deng Nhial's words may mark a turning point, not just for the government, but for South Sudan's political future. Will this be the wake-up call that brings real change, or the spark that reignites old divisions? Only time will tell. This story is developing, and we'll keep bringing you the latest updates as they happen. If you want to stay informed about South Sudan's breaking news and political developments, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to SS24 for exclusive reports and in-depth analysis. Your engagement helps us tell the stories that matter most.